Thank you very much. Nilgiri College of Arts and Science is blessed and graced with eminent leaders. Welcoming our secretary, the motivator, leader, and our guide, Mr. Rashid Gazzali, management coach and spiritual psychologist, for the secretary's message. Sir, please.
Today, it's an auspicious day that we all have gathered for participating in a greater conclave on new education policy. The eminent personalities who are taking part of this great webinar, I think we all are eager to listen to them to know more about NEP and their reflections on future education of our great nation. I thank and appreciate the willingness of the chief guest of the day, Dr. G. Madavan Nair sir, for consenting to be with us for this great auspicious gathering to inaugurate our conclave. Before moving on to the sessions and the deliberations from the faculties and the dignitaries, I just wanted to give a small intro about the program and what actually we Nilgiri College as a team intending to gain by conducting this an auspicious webinar. We all are aware the last couple of months, entire nation or entire educational fraternity is discussing in large about the educational policy and the changes which is going to happen or the witness in our great nation. So because NEP has become one of the key and the hot topic everywhere in educational spectrum, the people are actually reading, learning, and internalizing the concepts and the philosophies being presented by the NEP policy, and which has been positively and negatively, which has been discussed across. And again, more than all other reflections, NEP is going to frame our nation's future education and the positive scenario to build up the great nation in terms of education and the empowerment of the larger community. So keeping that in mind, we were thinking of organizing a webinar giving the innate insights of the topic and initiating the reflections from different personalities on different areas. And that would definitely give us a greater idea about the topic, and it will give us a platform to go into the deep of the NEP topics, and which will also guide to the positive discourse in future. So this is the main intention of today's program, and this will be continuing tomorrow and day after with the different angles. So I just wanted to share, because the details regarding the NEP and everything that the presenters and the guests will be revealing, the outcome or the frame of the meeting that will be giving an introductory remark or the broader view about the NEP in our Indian context, and which will be the major focus of today's session. And consequently, the next following days, we will be discussing the other parts of or other areas which has been very much connected to the NEP when it comes to the future education of our country. So we are familiar that a policy becomes one of the guidance or a guiding principle in order to mold the future education of a country, and which is very, very important when it comes to the educational aspects of any country. So when we are going back to our historical perspective, we can see that it is our third the educational policy in large which we are going to witness, which we are witnessing in the history of our great nation. After the independence, 1968, it was the first educational policy which has been promulgated in our country by the then the Prime Minister Indira Gandhi. And after that, again, it was followed by one another policy in 1986. The major the changes of the 1968 education policy, which has been coined as the radical restructuring of the entire educational system in our country. And after that, after the 20 years of time, again India witnessed for another change in the educational policy. That was in 1986, which was by initiated by then the Prime Minister Rajiv Gandhi. And after that, it was not a full or the structural remodification or restructuring of the educational policy was not happening, though some of these slightest changes occurred in 1992 when the Narasimha Rao was the Prime Minister of India, and under the auspices of Manmohan Singh in 2005, and which was actually a kind of a modification in a way of assuring the equality and giving maximum privileges to education and so on, which was not actually a modification of a larger perspective. After that, again, 2016 onwards, under the auspices of the Prime Minister Narendra Modi, that again the discussions was going on in formulating a new policy, which continued in 2016, then 18 and 17, so on. But 20 actually that has come to that has materialized in a concept of new education policy, or the new policy of education for the greatest nation. So this is the backdrop of NEP. So the policy becomes one of the credential record to build up the future educational scenario. So keeping that in mind, we are going to discuss today a broader perspective of NEP and the hope and challenges of NEP when it comes to the future education and the future of the generation, especially the student and faculty fraternity. And we'll be discussing the Indian scenario. I have told you that it started from 1968, and we are continuing with many modifications, and in order to ensure and equalize and create maximum qualitative platforms for the educational future. So we will discuss about the challenges of implementation, and we will be discussing the certain Indian scenario, or in the light of educational policy, and we will be sharing those aspects. This is the major outcome of today's meeting, and tomorrow and day after tomorrow we'll be discussing the other aspects of higher education and so on. So I wholeheartedly welcome everyone to this program, and the nature of the webinar will be initially the inaugural address and opening remarks by the chief guest of the day, Dr. Madavan Nair sir, and after that the panel members will be reflecting their own insights and views on this topic, Father Joseph Wailil sir, and Dr. M.K. Baby sir, and beloved Mahesh sir. And these three panel members will reflect their insights, and after that the forum will be open for every delegate. You can come up with your queries, questions, and your reflections, and that will be supplemented with the answers by the invited speakers and the panel members. So I request everyone to maintain the decor of our academic discourse, because if you wanted to retain this entire program in an academic outlook, and we will be only entertaining the positive or the constructive or the creative remarks, whichever may be, whatever may be your reflection, if any. But we will be promoting an academic perspective of NEP and the challenges, hopes, and the positives and negatives of this policy, how we can mold it in a way that it will be beneficial for the larger educational community of our country. So keeping that in mind, I would take this opportunity to welcome our beloved chief guest of the day for inaugural address. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Thank you for your great words. I would like to take this time to welcome our beloved principal, Dr. M. Durai Muttarasan, sir, for the presidential address. Sir, please.
A very good morning to all those who have gathered here through Zoom and also Facebook Live. On behalf of Nilgiri College of Arts and Science family, I cordially invite you for their wonderful event as Global Virtual Conclave on National Education Policy or New Education Policy, also called as Meet the Legends, that is to be held between 18, 19 and 20th October 2020. All our faculty fraternities and students are working under the great leadership and the trainer, that is none other our lovable secretary, Professor Rashid Gazzali. The chief guest of the day, that is Professor Dr. G. Madavan Nair, former ISRO chairman and lead man of many ISRO projects during his regime. Our young mentor of Nilgiri College of Arts and Science family is Professor Mohan Babu, Academic Dean, and my dear friend Dr. M. Durai, Chief Administrative Officers, my lovable heads of various departments and offices, and the last but not least, the young learners of today. Today's topic is NEP is as a ray of hope for the future education with respect to Indian scenario. On behalf of Nilgiri College of Arts and Science, I have privileged to host this event through Zoom with our three legends, namely Professor Dr. G. Madhavan Nair, former ISRO chairman, Professor Dr. P. Kaliraj, Honorable Vice Chancellor, Bada University, and Professor T.P. Srinivasan, former Ambassador to the UN, followed by a panel discussion between 18 and 20 October 2020. Last but not least, I would like to give heartfelt thanks to Professor P.P. Razak, Abdul Razak, Assistant Professor Commerce and Management, to make this event happen. Thank you very much for being a part of this global virtual conclave on new education policy. Over to Basil, please.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. Nilgiri College of Arts and Science is very much happy to have Dr. G. Madavan Nair as the chief guest of today's program. I would like to call upon Mr. Dr. P.P. Abdul Rasak, Head PG Department and Research, to introduce the chief guest. Sir, please.
A very good morning to one and all. I'm really happy to introduce Dr. G. Madavan sir, my best friend, philosopher, guide, and my guru. From the bottom of my heart, I would like to welcome you, sir, to our Nilgiri family on behalf of our Nilgiri College of Arts and Science, Thaloor, Wayanad. Dr. G. Madavan sir, former ISRO chairman, born in Neyatankara, Thiruvananthapuram, Kerala in 1943, Sri Dr. G. Madavan Nair graduated in engineering from Kerala University in 1966 after training at Baba Atomic Research Center, Mumbai. He joined the Tumba Aeronautical Rocket Launching Station in 1967. Sri Dr. G. Madavan Nair, former chairman of the Indian Space Research Organization, ISRO, is presently holding the positions of the President of the International Academy of Astronautics, the Chairman of the Board of Governors, IIT Patna, the Chairman of the Center for Management Development of the Government of Kerala, and he is also Council Member of Bangalore Indian Institute of Science. As Chairman of ISRO, he directed the development of space technology and its application to solve the problems of man and society in India. Under his leadership, 25 successful missions have been accomplished, such as INSAT, ResourceSat, EduSat, CartoSat, HAMSat, program of PSLV and GSLV launch, and OceanSat. He was responsible for implementation of India's first mission to Moon Chandrayaan-1, which led to the confirmation of a presence of water on the moon. He has given major trust in the implementation of application programs such as tele-education, telemedicine, and disaster management support system for meeting the needs of society at large. A scheme for village resource centers through satellite connectivity is implemented, targeting multiple services in a single window, which aims at improving the quality of life of the poor people in the villages. He was the chief architect of the India's Workforce Launches, PSLV. He has won several awards such as National Aeronautical Award, FIE Foundations Award, Sri Om Prakash Bhalsin Award, Swadeshi Sastra Puraskar Award, and Vikram Sarabhai Memorial Gold Medal of Indian Science Congress Association. He has also received gold medal from the Prime Minister at the 94th Indian Science Congress at Chidambaram in 2007. The nation has honored by him confirming the Padma Bhushan in 1998 and Padma Vibhushan in 1999. See, Dr. G. Madavan Nair has been confirmed with the degree of Doctor of Philosophy, degree of Doctor of Science from Punjab Technical University, Jalandhar 2003. Sri Venkateswara University, Tirupati 2004, Indian Institute of Technology, Delhi 2004, Indira Gandhi Open University, Delhi 2005, Rani Durga Varshitra Jabalpur 2005, Cochin University of Science and Technology, Kochi 2006, University of Mysore 2006, Rajiv Gandhi Technological University, Bhopal 2007, University of Kerala 2006, University of Mysore 2006, Rajiv Gandhi Technology University, Bhopal 2007, University of Kerala 2007, and SRM University, Chennai 2008. Honorary doctorate from the Ravi Shankar Shukla University, Raipur, Chhattisgarh 2009. Honoring degree of Doctor of Science from the Karnataka University, Dharwad 2009. Indian Institute of Technology, Mumbai 2009. And Indian Institute of Technology, Karankpur 2009. The Northeastern Hill University, Shillong, Vishwakarma Technology University, Belgaum 2010. And Charan Singh University, Meerut. With all due respect, most respected sir, due to time constraint, I am concluding. With all due respect, on behalf of our Nilgiri family, we welcome sir, not as a chief guest, but one among us. Hearty welcome to you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. With wholehearted welcoming Dr. G. Madavan Nair, former chairman of ISRO, Indian Space Research Organization. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Professor Rasak, for the elaborate words of introduction. President of the function and principal, Dr. Durai Mutharasan, Secretary, Shri Rashid Gazzali, other distinguished members of the panelists, faculty, and participants of this webinar. A very good morning to all of you and my warm greetings on this special day. I'm indeed happy to have been invited to inaugurate this webinar organized by Nilgiri College, and I consider it as a privilege to be doing this auspicious event. Certainly, the education policy is the very hot topic in the academic realm in India, and it is appropriate that Nilgiris has taken initiative to bring the highlights of this policy, the problems associated with the implementation, and what will be the gain as well as the future course related to this area. So these 3 days of discussions and presentation is certainly going to bring out some good outputs which will be useful at the national level. I wish in advance a complete success for this event, and also my heartiest congratulations to the entire team who have worked behind this. It's extremely difficult to organize a webinar for 1 hour. Now imagine that being taken up for 3 days. It's a great adventurous journey, and I'm sure you will succeed with whatever I've seen so far. Is the perfect organization, and may God bless you. Well, I think I'm not a educationist, so I will not be able to go deep into the subject. But at the same time, I have been the beneficiary of the education system. Well, I must say that independent India has seen major strides in the field of education, and that's the one reason that we are in the forefront of other countries with respect to the learner class, the technologies, and who can carry out various kinds of administrative, social work, and so on. But at the same time, I'm a little bit critical about what was happening in the past. What we had in the past was sort of a continuation of the British regime, and they wanted to create English-knowing clerical staff and administrators for running their empire here. So the entire education system was more tuned towards that. The linguistic skills, the logistic skills, and the history, geography, etc. were the main thrust areas. Even in the engineering fields, we were given importance to the conventional engineering, like civil construction, mechanical maintenance operation, and electrical power generation, distribution, and so on. No advanced the fields of engineering was covered even until I completed my course at Thaloor English. But at the same time, our new leaders, especially Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, saw the opportunity and the potential of this country and initiated various activities which led to the establishment of Indian Institute of Technologies and the strengthening of the IASC, and also many other institutions of national repute, not only in the science and engineering field, but in the medical, agriculture, and other research areas as well. And in fact, we are benefiting the initiative which is taken in the early 60s, and certainly we can be proud of that. But with time, somehow there is a degradation in the quality of the products who is coming out of the education system. This is very unfortunate, and all of us have been worrying about this for quite some time. And there have been several commissions who have been working on it, and they brought out reports, but very little of that got implemented. So the result is that we are still struggling. Well, to take a simple example, our examination system to evaluate the skills of a student, at least earlier days, there used to be some descriptive question, some explanations they had to give, some correlation they had to establish, etc. They had to apply their mind in depth, and they also should know the fundamentals. But at the same time, today, the examination system has become more or less like a memory test. In fact, most of the questions are objective tests, and if somebody who has got a good memory can score very well. But at the same time, when you take him to carry out a practical job, he draws a big zero. I can quote some of the IT giants here in the country. They take the best of the products from engineering colleges in the communication IT sector, and still they are not able to use them directly for the job. Well, maybe about 5% of the people qualify. Remaining people have to be retained, because you can see the many of the big companies, they have established their own training schools where they run the programs for 1 or 2 years, and then only can get into the actual field. That is on the higher education side. But now look at what happens at the secondary schools and primary schools and so on. There are study reports at the national level. Many of the students who come out of the +2 level, they don't have the basic skills of reading, understanding, and writing even. This is very, very pathetic. Leave alone that. Even the people who get good score and come out well in this after the school, they don't have any potential or practical skill for taking up a job. I'm stressing this point mainly, as you know, in our system and all over the world, it is like that. Maybe about 20 to 30% of the people, they get an opportunity to go for higher education. Remaining people will stop their education at +2 level. What do you do with them? If they are not employable, if they are not skilled, how are they going to face the challenges of life? So this is a big question mark before us. And in India, it is becoming worse day by day. The number of so-called unemployed youth, the educated unemployment youth, increasing. And that is really a drag on the economy instead of becoming a powerful tool for economic growth in the country. Then of course, you take the case of medical practitioners. There was a time, even people who go through a 3-year diploma course, they are able to tackle the patients and provide relief to them. Now, 5-year MBBS is nothing. Unless you become a postgraduate in some subject or other, you cannot start practicing. So that shows how much gap between the need and the reality. So perhaps this is all what has driven our Modi ji to revisit the entire system. Well, this exercise has been going on since he took power in 2015, and it's a long period. But it has gone through a lot of churning, what needs to be done, how it can be improved, and so on. And the education policy which has come out is the result of that. I'm extremely happy that this has come out very well, addressing the basic needs. Some of them I highlighted just now, and there are many other issues as well. So that way, it's really going to revolutionize the entire education system in the country in the days to come. Certainly, there are challenges associated with that. How we are going to implement it? How are we going to bring in this transition? In what time frame? How the people will accept it? And how it is going to be, when onwards we can see the results. These are all question marks before us. But there is no point in worrying about the future problems. Let us plunge into it, face them and solve them one by one so that we can reach much bigger heights. Well, of course, going through the highlights of the educational policy, one of the basic thing is the restructuring of the schooling itself. The preschool days as well as the school days, they are all integrated. So you have got something like 5 years where the children are given very light load of work. Today, even in the kindergarten, they have to carry kilograms of textbooks and so on, and they are loaded with all unwanted stuff. Instead, the initial stages, one has to encourage their comprehension, their absorption capability, their logics and linguistic skills. These are some of the areas where one has to improve. So that opportunity is now provided in this scheme. The children are left more or less free. They can observe themselves, their community around, their various establishments or the nature, and learn from that, and then try to see how best they can express in writing and reading, writing, and talking these things. So naturally, the question arises: what is the best way of doing this? All over the world, it is an accepted fact. The thinking capacity and the creative capacity is will bloom if the education is given in the mother tongue. Of course, India has got a very wide problem because we have got more than 28 languages accepted at the national level. And people, when they move from one region to the other region, switching languages is not that easy. Well, something can be done on that area also. If we look at all these languages, the alphabets are more or less same. Only the way it is written is different. So if you come to an agreement that all the languages will have a common script, that itself will solve this problem to a great extent. But I'm not going to address that issue now. But at the same time, that our strength has been our power in English. Why our technicians, the scientists, or the doctors, they are able to make an impact in the global scenario is mainly because of their knowledge of English. So we cannot forget that. And in fact, many of the parents, they desire right from the kindergarten onward, the children should be put through the English medium. So this is a debatable point. But the national education policy provides that after fifth year, one can have the choice of languages. Naturally, the Hindi comes as a link language and the English comes as an international requirement. So this trilingual formula will become effective. Certainly, that time is the ripe one for giving the linguistic skills to the children. So that way, perhaps we can overcome this problem in a big way. We need not be quibbling about this, but we can evolve and refine this trilingual formula, and that should lead to a success. Then the best part of the education system, even in the high school, is related to the one thing related to taking the students to a stream which they like. There is no point in taking everybody and putting through the very standard syllabus, a tight jacket syllabus. So at the end of that, they don't know what they are. So at the early stage itself, it is the responsibility of teachers and parents to identify which area the student has got a potential and a liking and a desire to grow in a particular field. So all this to be taken into account, and their efforts has to be channelized in that field. The next comes out is skilling these people. I mentioned to you, after +2, there are 60 to 70% of the people are left out. So they should be enabled to do a job by themselves. Job can be anything. It can be in agriculture, it can be carpentry, it can be in the mechanics, the workshops, or with respect to office management and so on. So in all these areas, you develop the skills during the college. The moment he or she comes out, they are prepared to take up a job. So that is something which is really going to be great. Again, the today people, at least at the higher secondary level, 11th and 12th standard, they have put into the science stream, that also maths and biology, and then of course computer science or the humanities and so on. So this again is not a desirable thing. So we had to break this barrier, an integrated course, but with the choice of selecting some core subject which the particular student can specialize. This extension is what is seen in the graduate education as well. So today, it's really a revolutionary idea to give a choice to the students. Don't give a package module to the student to pursue a BA or BSc degree. So they can choose the subjects what they want, the primary subjects and the secondary subjects, and have the majors and minors and so on, and have the credit created. Then also the system has got a flexibility. Instead of running a separate diploma or certificate course, the higher education level, the flexible scheme by which somebody completes 1 year of education, he gets a certificate. After 2 years, he gets a diploma. After 3 years, he gets a normal degree. After 4 years, he gets an honorary degree, which will lead to research and further studies and so on. So this flexible scheme is there. Again, due to economic reasons, many students drop out. So there's a feasibility of the students getting out, breaking their studies, and then going for work for some time. Again, they can come back. Whatever the credit what they have earned in the early period can be accounted, and they can take on from there for their further studies and so on. This is a fantastic idea, and it is very apt for a country like ours, where many of the parents, they sell off all their belongings to give a good education. Instead of that, here you create an opportunity for the student himself to earn and continue with his education. Then, of course, the chapter is open for the foreign universities to come and set up their establishments here. And similarly, our universities going abroad and setting up establishments in the other countries. All these are welcome ideas. And that creates a sense of competition, and which will lead to an improvement in the quality of the system. But the cost of all this is always a question mark. You have seen that privatization of the engineering and medical courses. Now, many of those courses are unaffordable for a common man in the country. The same fate should not come in this higher education scenario also. How to make it suiting our economic conditions? You must realize that rupee value is hardly, in terms of the exchange rate, is about 1/10 of what you have in USA, etc. You take the US rate and then multiply by the exchange rate and implement here, it is going to be disastrous. So we have to work out a fee structure which is commensurate with the living requirements and so on, and for suit this country. Secondly, there are people who cannot afford. There has to be scholarship schemes who excel in their field, and they have to be encouraged to pursue the study with the government support. The third, of course, is the teachers' training. Here, this is a big challenge before us, because the people are used to the conventional way of spoon feeding and evaluation at the end of the year and so on. Instead, the new policy demands a continuous evaluation, and that leads to the final grading and so on. And even the students are going to evaluate the teachers. So it's a total mindset and the change in the approach of the students is required. And retraining the teachers, maybe running into millions, is going to be the biggest challenge. Again, the disparity between the wage structure in the private sector and the government. Today, you know that there are many private schools doing extremely well. The teachers there have got only hardly about 1/3 of the remuneration what they get in a government setup. So this also has to be bridged. So then only we can see that the entire system get tuned up, and we will be able to face challenges. There are so many other things. I'm sure subsequent panelists and speakers will highlight that. But I'm really happy that Government of India has taken a very bold decision to make this revolutionary change, which is maybe much needed, and which is going to be a great success in the coming days. Once again, my thanks for the organizers for giving me this opportunity, and have a good luck for your remaining sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. I think as I introduced in the beginning, during the inaugural address, Madhavan Nair sir has given us a broader idea about NEP, and also he has given the major highlights of NEP and then the policy which is going to make a drastic change in the history of our education in India. So the program will be continuing with the subsequent the panelist presentation, and I think we would be welcoming the questions and queries to the dignitaries, including our beloved chief guest Madhavan Nair sir. I hope sir will also continue and to listen your queries and questions at the end. And before that, we will have to go with the panelist presentation, and they will be reflecting some more insights on the topic. And to begin with your permission, may I invite panelist sir, Madhavan sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you. Once again, we thank you wholeheartedly because you were there by 11 exact and joined with us, though it is an online program. It was your consent and your support was really a happiest thing for us. So we wholeheartedly thank you on behalf of Nilgiri. So I request Father Joseph Vailil sir, and he is one of the pioneer in the higher education, and he is a NAC peer team member and former principal of Devgiri College. He will be highlighting NEP on school education mainly, and other panelists will reflect their own ideas in other aspects. So to begin with, I request Father Joseph Vailil sir to give his remarks on this topic. Thank you, sir.
Okay, I start it again. Most respected Dr. Madavan Nair, Dr. M.K. Baby, Mr. Mahesh, school manager, principal, secretary, and other dear participants. It is already noon, therefore I am not going to wish you a good morning, but I wish you a good day. I congratulate the college for organizing this seminar. That is of a very relevant topic, the new education policy. It is very interesting to note that the new education policy was mainly prepared by Dr. Kasturi Rangan, once the chairman of ISRO. And now this webinar was inaugurated by another ISRO chairman, Dr. Madavan Nair. That's very good, very interesting. And even the real presence of Dr. Madavan Nair is very motivating to all of us. I also congratulate all the participants for showing the wisdom to attend this seminar. We are trying to understand more on the new education policy, NEP, today and the other 2 days. And we have to know many things more about the new education policy. I may use NEP, new education policy. The higher education policies are framed based on the school education policy. Therefore, we have to know the importance given to school education in the new education policy in order to understand even the higher education policies. So here, I am going to present before you the important features of the new education policy. As I said, the policy statement was prepared by a team of experts under Dr. Kasturi Rangan, and the union government approved it on 29th July 2020, replacing the existing national policy on education of 1986. Now, the new education policy is based on the following principles. 1, identify and foster the unique talents of each student for a holistic development. Number 2, earn foundational literacy and numeracy by each student by grade 3. After a little late, I will explain you what is foundational literacy and numeracy. I will explain later. Point 3, flexibility to students according to their talents and interests. Point 4, no hard separation between different subjects. 5, multidisciplinary and holistic education. 6, effective use of technology for teaching. 7, teachers form the heart of education, so the quality of teaching is very important. Number 8, education is a public service, and therefore every student will have a right for education. And number 9, there will be the need for substantial increase in the investment for education. So with this background, I am going to present before you the main features suggested for the school education. Remember that right now we have a 10+2 school education system. That is classes 1 to 8, 1 to 10, and 10 to 12. The first stage is 1 to 10. We call it a secondary education. And the second stage is 11 and 12, what we call the +2. Now, the new education policy is suggesting a different structure. A structure, it is called a 5+3+3+4 school system. I will explain it. In the present system, it is 10+2. That is classes 1 to 10, one unit, 11, 10, another unit. The total period is 12 years of formal education. We are not counting the nursery, LKG, UKG, etc. as part of formal education. We count from classes 1 to 12 only as part of formal education. But in the new system, the total period of formal school education will be 15 years, and education will start at the age of 3. And it is divided as follows. Age 3 to 6, the first 3 years of education. And the next 2 years, so altogether, first 5 years of education is called the foundational course. By the time the child completes the foundational course, the child will be of age 8, and the child will complete class 2. Then comes age 8 to 11. Again, it is a 3-year education. We call it the preparatory course. And the third is, again, another 3-year course, 11 to 14 years. Classes 6 to 8, we call it the middle course. And the last one is age 14 to 18, 4-year course, classes 9, 10, 11, and 12. And that we call it the secondary level. So the foundation level classes 1 to up to class 2, then preparatory up to class 5, middle class up to class 8, and secondary up to the present class 12. Now, the question is, why we give importance to education from the age of 3 instead of 6? The important reason or answer is this. It is said that over 85% of brain development is taking place before the age of 6. So, the training up to the age of 6 is important for healthy brain development. And therefore, we start our education at the age of 3. And we call it in the new policy, early childhood care and education. Early childhood care and education. And the government says that it is important. And the government also says that the early childhood care and education is not available to crores of students in India right now. They are not getting proper training. It's not available to everybody. So the new education policy has decided that all the students should get this training by the year 2030. So at this age, the students should learn alphabet, language, numbers, counting, colors, shapes, play, puzzles, logical thinking, problem solving, drawing, painting, art, craft, drama, music, etc. So you can see the education is not based on too much on textbooks, but it is on practical experiential training. And thereby, it is believed that the students will learn social capability, sensitivity, good behavior, courtesy, cleanliness, teamwork, etc. So the overall aim of early childhood care and education is physical and motor development, cognitive development, socio-emotional ethical development, cultural development, and the development of communication skills of the students. Now, in order to achieve these goals, we have to train a large number of teachers because in the present scenario, our school teachers may not be able to give this kind of efficient training. So in order to train the students, we will have to first train the teachers. So the new education policy therefore proposes several training programs for the teachers, even the present teachers. For example, 6 months to 1 year training program, monthly contact class, online training, cluster of resource centers, etc. are suggested to train the teachers for handling the children. Now I speak something more about foundational literacy and numeracy. I think all of you should listen and understand the basic meaning of this concept and its importance. The government has realized that crores of students in India do not have the ability to read and write, and the basic operations with the numbers, like the ability to add, to deduct, to multiply, to divide, etc. That is, the ability to read and write, ability to speak, the ability to add, multiply, divide, etc. That is a numerical ability. Many of the children are lacking these capabilities. So, the new education policy is trying to give a strong foundation for literacy and numeracy. That is, they should be able to read and write and speak well, and they should be able to make simple mathematical calculations. They should be more familiar with the numbers. So both these are basic prerequisite for future education. So in order to attain foundational literacy, certain priorities are set. For example, the government says that by 2025, we should reach the objective of foundational literacy and numeracy. And in order to attain this, the government proposes the National Mission for Foundational Literacy. Government will establish such an agency. And similarly, all the states and the union territories also will have to set up institutions for foundational literacy by 2025. Another point, the teacher vacancies will be filled in a time-bound manner because in the new system, teachers have a very important role. So without the teachers, nothing can take place. So special attention will be given to local teachers or teachers who know the local language. Then another point, the teacher-student ratio will be 1:30 in ordinary situations. And for students with socially and economically backward setup, the teacher-student ratio will be 1:25. More focus will be given to foundational literacy and numeracy in the syllabus up to the middle school. Now, the teacher education program also will therefore will be redesigned to suit the need. For example, teachers should be trained to give education in foundational literacy and numeracy. Therefore, high quality resources on foundational literacy and numeracy will be made available on the digital infrastructure for knowledge sharing by the government. That will be a help to the government, to the students and the teachers. Then another point, enjoyable and inspirational textbooks will be prepared for all classes. Another point, culture related will be the materials. Another point, importance for health, including mental health, is given in the new proposal. And therefore, the health, mental and physical health of the children are important. So the government proposes that no child should enter class with empty stomach and with a heavy heart. So food program, good breakfast and lunch for the students. This should be guaranteed. And therefore, energizing breakfast and noon meal are proposed. Regular health checkup proposed. 100% immunization proposed. Health card for each student proposed. Now, another important point is regarding the dropouts and universal registration. Government has identified that almost 3 to 4 crores of students drop out from the schools every year after joining. They join, but they discontinue. So this should be controlled, or this should be abolished, that practice of dropping. So by 2030, there should not be any dropout from the schools. And what we can do to avoid the dropouts? Government makes the following proposals. Number one, provide a good infrastructure in the school. Number two, appoint regular trained teachers in the schools. Number three, credibility of the government schools should be improved. That is by providing more facilities. Then new schools should be established wherever necessary. Then safe conveyance or hostel should be provided, especially for the girl students. Then education centers should be set up for the children of migrant laborers. Then there should be a system to track each student and parent to know whether they are coming to the school, whether they are studying or not. This tracking system should be strengthened. Then, next job is, once they come to the school, next job is to ensure quality education and to retain them. And therefore, more importance is given to output than input. What is the total outcome of education? That is given more importance. So with this use, we will make use of the volunteers, alumni, etc. for extra classes, support to teachers, career guidance, etc. Now, restructuring the curriculum is another point. The curriculum should meet the needs of today. Dr. Madavan Nair was very well speaking about it. I'm not repeating it. So the 5-year foundational course should lay the foundation for language and mathematics. Then the middle class, where subjects are taught, and it will be multidisciplinary, subject-oriented syllabus, and it will be more interactive classes. There will be more choice to subjects, and it will be a 3-language system. And the 2 languages should be Indian languages. One can be a foreign language. So bilingual textbooks will be made available. That is, textbook will be in local language as well as in English. So then there is another proposal. In grade 6 to 8, all students should participate in a fun project called Languages of India. This will help them to know interrelation between languages. And it is said that they will know that all major Indian languages will have their origin in Sanskrit. So Sanskrit also will be included as an option in the 3-language system. Other Indian languages also will be offered. Foreign languages also will be offered. Another important point is ethical values will be taught in the schools. That is, teach them the importance of doing what is right. For example, we have to teach them the morals regarding cheating, violence, littering, tolerance, equality. And also we have to teach them traditional Indian values like seva, ahimsa, satya, swachhata, niskama karma, diversity, pluralism, respect for elders, gender sensitivity, courtesy, patience, forgiveness, and opportunity to read and learn from Indian books like Panchatantra, Upanishads, etc. The NCERT will prepare curricula for the appropriate classes. Then there will be national textbooks with a local content and flavor. Another thing is regarding examination. Now examination is mainly memory testing. Hereafter, examination will be checking more competency. Importance is given not to memory testing, but to competency testing. So there will be board exams at class 10 and 12. For mathematics, there will be 2-level examinations, one for ordinary students and a higher level exam for extraordinary gifted students. And there is a proposal to establish various clubs like science club, mathematics club, drama club, sports club, fine arts club, and so on. Then excessive teacher transfers will be reduced because frequent transfer of teachers will make the students unfamiliar with the teachers in order to avoid it. Then there will be master instructors from locality. They can be hired to teach local art, music, agriculture, carpentry, and other vocational crafts. You have to remember one word, local teachers can be hired. That is, it is not a permanent appointment. We call them according to need and pay for them. Then there are various pedagogical approaches in the world, and the NCERT will study them and make appropriate proposals for India. Another major proposal is the establishment of school clusters or school complexes. The government has said that 28% of public schools and 14% of private schools in 2016-17 had less than 30 students in the entire school. So with the 30 students, no school can create all modern facilities and it can appoint so many qualified teachers. So the government is therefore proposing there will be one secondary school in a radius of 10-15 kilometers, and under this secondary school, there will be many other lower level schools. And all these schools will be clustered. And they will work together as a cluster. That is called the school cluster of complexes. And there will be a school complex management committee also to manage the situation. And then another proposal is twinning or pairing of schools. One public school is paired with one private school and they can share and help each other. Then school facilities are used for community activities outside the class time. These are the important proposals for the school training. And related to it is the teacher training. In order to give training to students of this nature, the present B.Ed or teacher training programs are unsuitable. So we have to restructure the B.Ed program. TTC will be abolished. B.Ed will be 4-year integrated. B.Ed courses will be started with the ordinary colleges and universities. And there are many more things. If there is time, later I will continue them. For the time moment, I am going to stop because I think I took a lot of time. But I said all these things in little detail because we should know actually what is the government is proposing and actually what is going to take place in India tomorrow. So our children, our teachers should know what is going to happen tomorrow in our campuses. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Father. Thank you very much. Indeed, it was a great presentation because you have given the minute details which NEP going to affect the school education from the starting from this third year of the age. So I think we will surely the participants will be having lot many queries or questions. At the end, they will come back to you for the clarifications. So thanking you once again for your elaborated presentation. Now we will move on to the second panelist. So we have time limit because we'll have to finish by 1 o'clock because actually the time limit is not for the candidates, but network issue and the recharge option and everything will be constrained. So we'll have to stick on to the time. So I invite Dr. M.K. Baby sir, Christu Jayanti College head of the management studies, and he's a well-known the academician. And I invite M.K. Baby sir to highlight NEP's impact on higher education, especially. Thank you.
Thank you, respected Rashid Gazzali sir. With the due respect to the presence of eminent luminary Dr. G. Madavan Nair sir, and acknowledging the presence of esteemed panelists and academicians from Nilgiri College of Arts and Science, I express my deep sense of gratitude for giving me an opportunity to share this platform and to just share some of my understanding on the importance and impact of this NEP on higher education. At the very outset, I must tell that this is the third comprehensive education policy. After the first two were back in 1968 and 1986, which was subsequently modified in 1992. And a thorough renovation in the education system became imperative, probably because of two reasons. One, education is fundamental to the purpose of achieving human potential, which is very crucial to ensure the economic development. In the next decade, India will have the largest number of young population. And it is very important that this huge workforce of the country is groomed properly to make them effectively employable, so that this can be instrumental in the economic development of the country, or else this can be a huge burden for the nation. So one of the objectives was to transform India to an international knowledge hub. And secondly, as most of us must be aware, in 2015, September, 193 member countries of UN met together and adopted the Sustainable Development Goals, 17 Sustainable Development Goals, to transform the world from its present state of, very pathetic affairs with regard to environmental pollution, marginalization, exploitation, poverty, ill health, and so on, to a world which is worth living. And the fourth Sustainable Development Goal is to give access to sustainable and quality education to all by 2035. Now, in the light of this, the need for restructuring the education system was badly felt. And again, we know that the world is passing through what is called Industry 4.0, the fourth industrial revolution, which is characterized by artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, robotics, big data analysis, and so on. As a result of which, most of the jobs which are presently there will vanish probably in the next 10 years or 15 years time. And there will be a new set of skills which will be required for the youngsters to take up the jobs of future. So this needs some kind of very, very, very planned, systematic transformation in the present system of education, which is focusing more on probably the, functional literacy, or concentrating more on cognitive ability. So we need people who will be flexible so as to adapt to any circumstances and would be ready to take up any job which is of which is likely to be there in the next years to come. It is against this that the new education policy was framed, and because of the constraints of time, I just don't want to go deep into the vision and things like that. I'll just touch upon the major areas which are going to be transformed when it comes to the higher education scenario. As probably one of the major changes which most of you might have noted, and which has been widely discussed in the media, was the transformation of present 3-year degree program to 4-year undergraduate programs. And the degree program, at the very outset, I must say that currently the gross enrollment ratio to higher education is something like 26.3 in India. That is only 26.3 out of 100 people who complete their secondary school education or higher secondary education proceed to universities or higher education institutions for their higher education. And by 2035, India aims at increasing the gross enrollment ratio from present 26% to 50%. And the degree will be redesigned as a 4-year multidisciplinary bachelor's program And as I said, no, as Madavan sir was saying earlier, and this will be with the multiple exit options. No, as learners will have the option to discontinue after 1 year, and they will be given a certificate. They can proceed their education for 2 years, and if the economic conditions or other demands of life force them to discontinue after 2 years, they can discontinue, they can exit, and they will be given a diploma, and they can complete 3 years and will be given a degree, or they can complete 4 years and get an honorary degree. And what is striking with the new education policy is the idea to formulate an ABC, that is an academic bank of credit. So whatever credit they have accumulated will be stored digitally, and later, say after a break of 3 or 4 years of work, if they want to continue with their studies, okay, all the credits which they have accumulated in the first year or second year of their undergraduate program before they exit can be counted, and if they put in the remaining credit required for the award of degree, well, they will be eligible for that. So that's a very, very revolutionizing and very path-breaking, reformation which is expected in the higher education scenario. As Madavan sir was rightly telling, now, funding education, higher education is, it has become a huge burden to the parents, and there are instances where, parents are compelled to sell off their small land holdings, or they are forced to take educational loans, and they become subsequently trapped in that. So this can be, effectively addressed. Now, another thing is that with the with the greater focus on higher education, the MHRD ministry, the Ministry of Human Resources and Development, will be now renamed as Ministry of Education to give greater focus on the education. And again, the education shall be holistic, and the divide between science and liberal arts, which is quite evident now, will gradually fade away, so that the undergraduate programs will become more holistic and multidisciplinary. And there is also a proposal to start model public universities for holistic education at par with India's IITs and IIMs, which are called multidisciplinary education and research universities, MERUs, multidisciplinary education and research universities, which will be universities or public institutions, public universities, which are exclusively concentrating on offering multidisciplinary courses, and this will be at par with the coveted IITs and IIMs of the country. And the higher education institutions will be transformed into large multidisciplinary universities, colleges, and higher education institutions clusters or knowledge hubs, and each of them will have at least 3,000 students. So each university or each higher educational institutions cluster or knowledge hub will have a minimum of 3,000 students. And there will be 3 types of universities called research intensive universities, teaching intensive universities, and autonomous degree awarding colleges. And another important proposal or another important point of the new education policy is that the present system of affiliation, colleges being affiliated to certain large universities, will gradually be phased out. And over 15 years' time, the affiliation system will be done away with. and every college will become an autonomous degree awarding college. And for that, no, there will be all the institutions will be given graded academic autonomy on a phased manner, of course, on the basis of a more objective and transparent system of accreditation. And there is also the proposal to set up a national research foundation, NRF, because the new education policy gives a lot of importance to research and innovation. So it's believed that unless we reorient our education system to instill creativity and innovative skills, the country won't be able to take up the challenges of future. And there is also a proposal for starting an open and distance learning system, or open and distance learning will be given more importance. And in fact, achieving 50% gross enrollment ratio is with the help of this open and distance learning. And a lot of importance will be given to MOOC courses. And as as a chief guest in his inaugural address was mentioning, there is also a proposal for internationalization of education. And this is done in two ways. One, the higher education institutions of the country will be encouraged to enter into collaborative agreements and collaborative understanding in the form of MOUs and so on with the leading universities of the world. And further, the top 100 world-class institutions will be invited and will be allowed to open their campuses in India. So this will not only give option for an opportunity for the Indian students to get access to world-class education, but it will also act as a benchmark for the Indian higher education institutions. And of course, faculty will be at the center, and faculty of higher educational institutions will be given the freedom to frame their own curriculum and their own pedagogical approaches, of course, within the defined framework. And all the apex affiliating regulating agencies like UGC and AICTE will be replaced by a single regulator called National Higher Education Regulatory Authority, NHERA. And adult education is given greater importance, and all this would need huge investment. And for that, one of the very ambitious suggestion or recommendation of the drafting committee, which has been approved, is that as against the present allocation of 4.63% of the GDP to education sector, the new education policy envisages an apportionment, an allocation of at least 6% of the country's GDP to the education sector. And again, there will be an Indian Institute of Translation and Interpretation, which is for promoting Indian languages, and many more. For because of the constraints of time, I would just end up my presentation, and I would be very happy to interact further if time permits. With once again, with deep sense of gratitude for giving me this opportunity to be part of this wonderful program organized by one of the emerging educational institutions of the country. I just remind my presentation. Thank you for patiently listening.
Thank you, baby sir. Thank you very much. And it was also, and actually we appreciate two panel members because you have enlightened us NEP on different aspects, one in school education and the other one in higher education, and which was actually a very fascinating explanation on the implication of NEP in the future of our education system in India. So we'll be moving to the open forum. Before that, I'll introduce Mahesh sir. He is our the permanent invitee to the panel member, who is representing from abroad. So he's doing his research in Switzerland, and I think he will be continuing with his remarks in the following days. But he will introduce you today and with an opening remark. And we invited him as representing an international diaspora. So just he will familiarize you today, and I think as we are running short of time, we'll listen to him in detail tomorrow. And I just invite Mahesh Suresh for a remarks. Thank you.
I wish I was born now so I could restart my studies again. And I know you guys are hungry and awaiting lunch at your table soon, so I don't want to extend my speech, and due to time constraint, I have to just introduce myself. First of all, thank you, Nilgiris College of Arts and Science, and my beloved professor and the head of PG and Research Department of Nilgiris College of Arts and Science, Mr. Abdul Rasak, for inviting me to this global virtual enclave. And it was an honor to share space with our former ISRO chairman, Dr. Madavan Nair sir, and other panel members. I think this is a real good move from the government to change their education policy, which was quite old. And maybe in the coming days, I would like to talk more on this topic. Due to time constraints, I'm not able to do this today. So yeah, hope to see you in the coming days. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Actually, Mahesh could enlighten us about the foreign experiences in the education, because most of the NEP highlights actually it is something related, something already implemented in the European countries and all. I think your insights would be more relevant, and we appreciate you because for us it is noon, but for you it's early morning. I think by 11 o'clock it means 5 o'clock in Switzerland, but you were on time. But I think we hope you will cooperate with us, and we'll listen to you more on tomorrow, because Madhavan sir is online from 11 o'clock, so we'll have to respect his time. That's the reason. And now the forum is open for all the delegates. Now you can come up with your queries, and our beloved chief guest Madhavan sir and Father Joseph Vailil sir and Dr. MKVB sir will answer you. And I think now you can raise your queries either either through the chat box, or else you can even raise your hand, so that I will allow you to unmute yourself and you can ask. I think the one question to begin with, it's been already texted here. That is, how far the national education policy and its impacts on rural sector. I think it's been shared while Madhavan sir was talking. So how far this NEP would be able to influence or create impact in the rural sector? I think Madhavan sir can reflect.
Well, as you have seen, that the skilling of the students is given importance at the school days itself. This is what is going to benefit the rural people. You know, nearly 70% of our population is living in villages, and many of them, they migrate to the metros in search of job and things like that. If you impart the right skill related to agriculture, horticulture, carpentry, electrical, or whatever it is, they can find local employment itself. So that is going to really become a boom for the rural economy. And certainly, this is something which is going to be of great use to the rural youth.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay.
And does it the NEP? It's a call on motivating the privatization in the educational field. So I think it can be answered all the three panelists. How far the NEP promotes privatization in education? Because there is a notion that it gives more importance for privatization or the involvement of private sector in the field of education. I think all the panelists can reflect themselves. Mother, do you want to add anything?
Well, one thing, the right for education already we have legalized, and up to the age of 18, the youth has got a right to get educated. So in this context, it becomes a responsibility of the state to see that this primary and secondary education covers everyone in the country. And the government cannot run away from that. The privatization is not the solution in this sector. Most of the successful countries, you look at it in the Western world, they all have a free education by the government-sponsored institutes up to the class 12. So similar scheme has to come in here. In the higher education, there is large investment required, infrastructure required, mainly laboratories and things like that. So definitely the privatization can solve those problems to a great extent. Perhaps everywhere, if the government has to invest, it becomes a huge burden. And even the 6% allocation proposed by the NEP will not be adequate. So this we have to draw a line. And when you go for privatization, nobody will do a free job. It will be for something which they get out of the investment what they're making. So naturally, the fee structure, etc., will be tuned towards that. But in core areas and people who cannot afford that kind of high fee structure, again, government support is a solution. They had to introduce scholarships so it can take care of the bright students and liberal loan schemes to cover other people also. So we had to go hand in hand with the solution that government-owned school education and private public participation for the higher education.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. I think the two exclusive questions came to two panelists. Number one, related to the school education. I think representing the Devagiri institutions and all, I think Father could reflect more on the same. How far this mother tongue implication till 5th standard would be affecting the English medium education and English medium institutions in future? I think Father, please.
I'm not very sure what is going to happen. Anyway, if the policy is strictly implemented, education should be in mother tongue up to standard 5. The government has said, or the policy has said nothing about the existing schools, nothing like that. So what I say, we have to wait and see. That is my answer.
Okay. Maybe, sir, it is something related to the higher education scenario. That's you were talking. The NEP is giving the diploma and certification and degree option. So the question is, it will be wiping out the term dropout, and a dropout will be a common factor in the higher education because anybody can come up anytime and join and discontinue from the year. So how far it will affect the quality of education and especially the connectivity of the teacher-student relationship and the quality and standard of higher education?
Okay, the one thing which we have to understand is that it cannot be considered as being dropped out exactly, because there is a paradigm shift, and the system itself is one which is made flexible. So they do actually join maybe to complete 3 years or 4 years of undergraduate program, but that may not be that common, but if one particular student finds it impossible to continue, either because of financial constraints or because of some other responsibility that we had to shoulder, or because he gets placed in between, the years which he has already spent, the courses that he has taken will not be a waste. So whatever credit he has earned can be retained. And if at all later he gets an opportunity to continue with his education, because again we know that there will be open and distance learning forum, which will be supplementing or going hand in hand with the regular education system in institutions. So whatever credit that he has already earned can be utilized to complete the credit requirements, so that he will be given or he will be awarded a diploma or a degree at a later stage. And that doesn't mean that everybody will be discontinuing after 1 year. This would of course be an exception. And if at all somebody has to discontinue, whatever courses he has done, the time that he has already spent will not be a waste. But that's what is happening now. Somebody who perhaps has done 2 years of degree is forced to discontinue because he gets placed. Now, again, if he wants to do the degree, he may have to do it overall again. And that inconvenience will be done away with. And therefore, this will give greater flexibility, and the stigma which is currently being associated with discontinuing or dropout will be done away with in the new framework. That's my observation there. Maybe Madavan sir can highlight more on that. And probably that is a system, as Secretary sir must be well aware, which is prevalent in most of the European countries and in America. Academic credits and then breaking in between, coming back to universities and completing their programs is very common there. And especially where higher education is being financed more by the learner than by the parent.
Yeah, sure. And quality matters in that case.
Okay. Yeah.
And now the question, which is interesting, that NEP is so silent in terms of reservation. So how did you see that factor that which may be affecting the backward classes, the promoting backward classes in the higher education? Madavan sir, you want to add anything?
Well, it's a very sensitive issue and very difficult to make a comment. We have been following this reservation policy since independence. But the beneficiaries, the definition of beneficiaries, what we started with and what we have today has a distorted picture. We have more than 50% of the seats in various establishments reserved for various communities and various backward qualities and all. But perhaps the whole thing has to change. It has to be based on the economic condition, not based on caste, creed, and other elements. So the reservation based on an economic backwardness is always welcome. There only I was talking about government offering support, the scholarships to the people with a less income group.
Yeah. Sir, again, with your permission, can I add something to that, sir?
Yes, please.
Yeah. See, as Madhavan sir was saying, the NEP is not silent on reservation or on catering to the needs of the deprived. There are provisions for special education zones to be set up in economically backward areas, which will definitely be giving access to higher education for people in economically and socially backward regions. And there is also provision for strengthening the Kasturba Mahila Vidyalaya, which is presently catering to the educational requirements of girls up to secondary level. And there are also recommendations that there should be a lot of scholarships for everyone who is unable to afford the cost of education must have the facility to get scholarships. So thereby, giving access to education to economically marginalized is being taken care of to a great extent. New education policy doesn't mean, it does not refer to reservation based on caste, but that doesn't mean that will be replaced, because that is at another major policy of the government. It's a policy of the nation. And unless there is a change in the policy with regard to reservation, we have to think that the system would continue in the new education policy under the new system.
Thank you so much. I think we should be very much strict on conclusion or the time of the program, because it is a continuous program. Tomorrow and after we will be here with the extension of the topics. So if we are extending more than 1 o'clock, so it may affect the calculation of participants for tomorrow. And it should be appreciated that more than 300 people were here and there from the beginning. They were continuing for the program, and the purpose is served. As a moderator, I'm really happy because we could give the broader aspect of NEP in terms of school, higher education, and as a policy, how far it will be creating impacts on the larger community. So I think the consecutive days will come up with a little more in-depth discussions, and the faculties will be, the panelists will be giving more ideas on the topics in terms of standardization and in terms of internationalization and all, where the Vice Chancellor and the TP Srinivasan sir and all other dignitaries will be taking part. So once again, on behalf of the discussion team, I thank Madavan Nair sir, because it is almost 2 hours you are continuing there in the screen. So that is, we should salute you for your commitment and for your the great recognition which you have given to the Nilgiri team and beloved father. And actually, I was also concerned because giving that a broader idea of the school and in NEP and in a short span of time, and which will be a Herculean task. But you did it in a fantastic manner, and everybody was appreciating even in the messages, because that was given a clear-cut idea how the schools will be affected in NEP perspective. Thank you, Father. Thank you very much. But we are eager to listen you more. And Baby sir, as you are into higher education and that in a Bangalore, and you worked with very IQAC and many other aspects. So you will be the apt person to comment on the changes which is going to witness in the higher education. You did in an excellent manner, and you have enlightened the audience with the impact of the higher education and NEP, and especially coming to the faculty and student fraternity on a larger level. So I believe that this is actually we are not completed the discussion, because it has to continue. The topic is that much broader. So, but keeping the time frame in mind, I thank everyone and all the participants for your active participation. And I would like to invite Professor D. Mohan Babu, our Dean of Academics, to propose vote of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Respected and beloved Chairman of the College, our Secretary Rashid Gazzali, sir, and the Chief Guest of the Day, well-known scientist of our Kerala state, Dr. G. Madavan Nair, sir, and all the panelists, my colleagues, and the listeners from the different parts of the country. Now, when the sun has risen over the misty mountains of Nilgiri today morning, the destiny has decided to bless us with a blessed morning, blessed Sunday. That is what has happened for the last 2 hours. We are really enlightened. We are really, enriched ourselves by having the presence of the great scientist, Dr. G. Madavan Nair, sir, who is a great son of Kerala. So he found out time to spend along with us for this morning. Sir, our gratitude to you cannot be expressed just with mere words. We bow before you. We give you all that, we believe that your presence has really added color, and your presence has really added and enriched the minds of the people who have been listening to you, sir. Thank you very much, Dr. G. Madavan Nair, sir, for being with us for the last 2 hours. Thank you, sir. Father Joseph Wiley is a destiny maker in a way, because he is heading one of the prestigious institutions of our country, the Nilgiri College of Arts and Science. It has been adjudged long back as Center of Excellence. Great people have taught there, great people have been trained there, great people have come out with flying colors from the corridors of Nilgiri College. So such a great personality in the field of education found out time to spend with us on this Sunday. Usually on Sundays, fathers will never be available. Maybe, due to the COVID situation, the Kurbana is not conducted in your church. Otherwise, you would not have found out time to come out here. Thank you, Father Wiley, a lot.
Thank you.
We are birds of the same feather. Come again and help this infant institution, which is, having a lot of expectation to do service for the society. Thank you, Father.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dr. N.K. Baby, sir, from Kusuraja College again. He is, head of the Department of Management. He also found out time on MST's busy schedule to be with us in this morning. Sir, we express our heartfelt, gratitude for sharing your time with us. Thank you, sir, again. Now, Mahesh K. Suresh, I think I have met this dynamic gentleman along with Rashid Gazzali, sir, in the sign. My memory is correct. Mahesh, I heard a lot about you, and you're a dynamic researcher, and you found out time from abroad to be with us in this morning. I don't know whether it is morning there. Anyway, Mahesh, in the days to come, again, we want to listen to you. We want to have your experiences that you had in a country like Switzerland. Thank you, Mahesh. And now my thanks are due to, of course, to our principal, Dr. Durai Mutharsan sir, our administrative officer, M. Durai sir, and all other people who have joined along with us in this auspicious day to listen to the great esteemed personalities who joined this meeting from the different parts of the world. For your information, listeners, Nilgiri College has conducted more than 2 dozens of webinars like this during this COVID season. And I believe and understand that no other college in the country has spent so much time on webinars during this COVID season. That is especially with Nilgiri College. We are proud of it actually. And I should thank all the participants for this one person which I had to mention, Mr. Rashad, who has joined our faculty recently. He is a coordinator, a reactive coordinator. Rashad, you have done it in a very good way. Thank you very much for coordinating the whole thing. We have a very efficient technical team here, like Basil, then Newman, Amal, and all people now who have made all these people all these possibilities. They have been sitting along with us right from the morning. And one more person is Hashim. He also includes a technical team of this Nilgiri College of Arts and Science. So once again, I thank all the people. I think I have not left out anybody. My colleagues, heads of the departments, all these people are here along with us for the last 2 hours. And last but not the least, these things are possible in Nilgiri College because we are proud of our incessant inspirer. That is none other than our beloved, respected Rashid Gazzali sir, who is the captain of the ship. Thank you, sir, for making it possible in your own usual way. Thank you, all the listeners, my faculty members. I think I did not left out anybody. I did not leave out anybody. Thank you once again. Have a nice afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your wonderful, mesmerizing gratitude note. And once again, thanking all the dignitaries from the top to the bottom and all the delegates participated in this program. And this series to be continued for a couple of days more. And Nilgiri College of Arts and Science is proud to have Dr. Madavan Nair sir and Father Joseph Vianil, Dr. M.K. Baby, and Mr. Mahesh Suresh as today's special guest. Thank you very much. And thanking all the participants, those who have joined today's program. And for your information, we have shared a feedback link in the chat box, and kindly request all the participants to express and share your valuable feedbacks on the webinar, and expect to meet you in next couple of days in this series. And thanking you from Nilgiri College of Arts and Science, Thaloor. Thank you very much.